She was a 7-year-old golden retriever named Nala. Perfect weight, shiny coat. An owner who took her to every annual checkup, bought the expensive food, gave her the monthly flea prevention without fail. By every measure, Nala was a loved dog. And yet, when I opened her mouth on that table, the smell hit me before I even turned on the exam light. Her back molars were black, not discolored, black. The gum tissue had pulled away from 4 of her teeth, leaving raw, exposed roots that bled when I touched them with my instrument. The infection had been there for a long time. Months, maybe longer. It had spread into her jawbone. And what her owner didn't know, what I had to sit down and explain to her in the consultation room while she cried, was that bacteria from Nala's mouth had been leaking into her bloodstream every single day, putting pressure on her heart and kidneys in ways that don't show up until the damage is already done. Nala survived, but she lost 6 teeth, spent 5 days on IV antibiotics, and her owner spent $4,000 on a problem that started as plaque. The same soft film that forms on your own teeth every night while you sleep. The thing is, that owner brushed Nala's teeth. Not every day, but she tried. She bought the enzymatic toothpaste. She did what she knew to do. What nobody told her, what I'm going to tell you today, is that the most effective dental tool for her dog was sitting in her refrigerator the entire time. Not in a pet store, not behind a vet counter, in her kitchen. And by the end of what I'm about to share, you'll know exactly which 5 foods clean your dog's teeth from the inside out, how much to give, and how to start tonight. Here's what most people don't understand about plaque. You already know it's bad. What you might not know is why it's bad in a way that goes far beyond bad breath. Think of your dog's gum line as the seal around a bathtub drain. When that seal is intact, nothing gets through, water drains, the floor stays dry, everything works. Plaque is what erodes that seal. It's a sticky film made of bacteria, saliva, and food particles that starts forming on teeth within hours of eating. If it sits there long enough, it hardens into tartar. That's the cement-like yellow crust you can see on the back teeth of dogs over 5. And once it's tartar, you can't brush it off. Only a dental ultrasonic scaler, the kind we use under anesthesia in my clinic, can remove it. But here's the part that changes everything. Underneath that hardened tartar, bacteria don't stay local. They release toxins that inflame the gum tissue, and inflamed gum tissue is porous, meaning bacteria can pass directly into the bloodstream through microscopic tears. Your dog's immune system, which I think of as a security team stationed around the body, gets overwhelmed trying to respond to a constant low-grade infection coming from the mouth. Over time, those same bacteria have been linked to changes in heart valve tissue, kidney filtration, and liver function. I've had owners ask me, how did my dog develop heart disease? He ate well, he exercised, and I've had to explain that the answer was in the mouth. In plaque that nobody addressed when it was still soft enough to fight. The good news is that soft plaque is actually vulnerable. It breaks down with mechanical abrasion, the physical scrubbing action of chewing, and with specific enzymes that certain raw foods naturally contain. Your vet isn't wrong to recommend brushing. I recommend it too. But most people can't brush their dog's teeth every day. Life happens. And that gap, that space between the ideal and the real, is exactly where these 5 foods live. I've spent 22 years asking myself why dogs keep ending up on my table with damage that started as something this manageable. The answer, more often than I'd like to admit, is that nobody told the owner in time. That's what I'm doing right now. Raw carrots. Start there. When you get home tonight, I want you to do something simple. Go to your refrigerator, pull out a carrot, snap it in half, and hand it to your dog. Watch what happens. Watch where they take it. Watch how long they chew, because that chewing, that sustained, grinding, gnawing motion, is doing something that a 10-second treat cannot do. I know what you're thinking. A carrot. Really? I understand the skepticism. But stay with me because the mechanism here is not magic. It's physics. Raw carrot has a fibrous, firm texture that creates what we call mechanical abrasion. Think of it like a very gentle scrub brush that your dog operates themselves. As they bite down and drag the carrot across their teeth, the fiber physically disrupts the biofilm, the soft plaque layer, before it has a chance to mineralize into tartar. The key word is raw. Cooked carrots go soft. Soft doesn't scrub anything. The carrot has to have resistance. There's a second thing happening that most people miss. Carrots stimulate saliva production significantly. And saliva is not just moisture, it contains enzymes like lysozyme that actively break down bacterial cell walls. Your dog's own mouth chemistry becomes part of the cleaning process when you trigger enough saliva flow, and nothing triggers it faster than a firm, crunchy food they have to work for. For a medium-sized dog, say 30 to 50 pounds, one baby carrot or half a standard carrot, 2 to 3 times a week is enough to create a consistent mechanical cleaning effect without adding too many sugars. For smaller dogs, a few thin slices. For large breeds, a full carrot works. Give it raw. Give it whole enough that they have to chew, not just swallow. I had a patient, a 9-year-old beagle named Oscar, a breed notorious for dental disease because of their crowded jaw structure, whose owner started giving him a carrot every other evening instead of his usual biscuit treat. At Oscar's next cleaning 6 months later, my dental hygienist flagged that tartar accumulation on his upper premolars had noticeably slowed compared to the previous year. Not eliminated. Slowed. That's a meaningful difference at 9 years old. Have you ever swapped out a treat for something from your produce drawer? Tell me in the comments what your dog thought of it the first time. The reactions are usually very strong, one way or the other. Now here's where it gets interesting because the next food works through a completely different pathway, and it's one that almost nobody talks about. Apple slices, specifically the skin. Apple skin contains a polyphenol, a plant compound called quercetin, and it has a specific property relevant to dental health. It inhibits the ability of Streptococcus mutans, one of the primary bacteria responsible for dental plaque formation, to adhere to tooth surfaces. Bacteria that can't stick can't build a biofilm. No biofilm means no plaque. No plaque means the entire chain that leads to tartar, gum disease, and systemic infection never gets started. Think of quercetin like a coating spray on a non-stick pan. Bacteria try to grip the tooth surface the way food tries to stick to an uncoated pan, and they fail. The malic acid in apples adds a second layer. Malic acid is a mild natural acid that dissolves early-stage calcium deposits, the very beginning of tartar formation before it fully hardens. This is actually why apple cider vinegar has been used in traditional human dental hygiene for centuries, though the concentrated form is too acidic for daily use. In a raw apple slice, the malic acid is dilute enough to be safe and still effective. Remove the seeds and core completely. Apple seeds contain trace amounts of cyanogenic compounds that are not safe for dogs. The flesh and skin are what you want. For a medium dog, 2 to 3 thin slices, 2 or 3 times a week. For a small dog, 1 slice is plenty. A 7-year-old Shih Tzu named Pepper had come to me with moderate gingivitis, that's gum inflammation, that her owner was managing with prescription dental rinse. We added apple slices to her routine alongside the rinse. 4 months later, her gum tissue had a measurably less inflamed appearance on examination. Her owner asked if I'd changed her prescription. I hadn't. The only change was 2 apple slices, 3 times a week. Celery is the one that surprises people most, and it probably shouldn't once you understand what's inside it. Raw celery has 2 things working in its favor. The first is structural. It's stringy in a way that carrots aren't. Those fibrous strands act like dental floss, pulling into the tight spaces between teeth where a carrot's solid crunch can't reach. The physical cleaning action is more targeted, particularly at the gum line where the real damage begins. The second thing is less obvious. Celery runs over 95% water by weight, and that water content, combined with the chewing it demands, creates a flushing effect inside the mouth. It washes debris out of the pockets around the gum line. Not perfectly, not surgically, but consistently over time, it reduces the bacterial load in the exact spaces where gum disease starts. Celery also contains phthalides, compounds with a mild antibacterial effect on oral bacteria specifically. I want to be careful not to overstate this. A stalk of celery is not going to reverse periodontal disease. But as part of a routine, the compounding effect of mechanical cleaning, flushing, and mild antibacterial action adds up in ways that show at the annual exam. I had a patient, a 6-year-old dachshund named Rosie, a breed that suffers disproportionately from gum disease because of their elongated jaw structure and crowded lower teeth. Her owner had been told by 2 vets that Rosie needed an anesthetic dental cleaning every single year. She started giving Rosie celery pieces 3 times a week, cut into rounds small enough that she had to work for each one. 18 months later, Rosie's cleaning was pushed back to every 18 months instead of 12. Her vet at the time noted improved gum tissue health. That is 6 months of anesthesia exposure and several $100s in fees that Rosie's owner avoided. A celery stalk costs 40 cents. Cut it into pieces your dog can manage without swallowing a whole stalk whole. For small dogs, thin rounds. For medium and large dogs, 2 to 3 2-inch pieces works well. Give it a few times a week. Some dogs take to it immediately. Others need it introduced slowly, mixed into their food with something they already love. And look, before I get to the last 2 foods, I want to flag something. The 4th one has a caveat I need you to hear before you try it, and the 5th is the one my own colleagues raise an eyebrow at when I mention it in conversation. It's also the one with the most direct effect on the bacteria that destroy gum tissue. Stay with me. Raw coconut meat. Not coconut oil, not coconut milk, but actual raw dried coconut flakes or fresh coconut flesh. Coconut contains lauric acid, a medium-chain fatty acid that has demonstrated genuine antibacterial properties against the types of gram-positive bacteria most commonly found in canine periodontal disease. Gram-positive bacteria are the ones with a thick outer wall, and lauric acid disrupts that wall at the membrane level. It doesn't eliminate every oral bacterium, nothing does, but it specifically targets the ones most responsible for gum tissue destruction. The texture of raw coconut also creates light abrasion. Not as aggressive as a carrot, but for dogs who refuse firmer foods, older dogs, dogs with sensitive teeth, small breeds with crowded jaws. Coconut flakes give you both the antibacterial benefit and some mechanical cleaning in a format they'll actually accept. Here's the caveat. Coconut is high in fat. Not dangerously so, but enough that in dogs with a history of pancreatitis, inflammation of the pancreas, or significant weight issues, you should check with your vet before adding it. For a healthy dog, a teaspoon of unsweetened raw coconut flakes mixed into food 2 or 3 times a week is the right dose. Unsweetened is non-negotiable. Sweetened coconut products contain added sugar, which feeds the very bacteria you're trying to starve. A 10-year-old Labrador named Duke came to me with stage 2 periodontal disease, measurable bone loss around 3 of his back molars, confirmed on dental x-ray. His owner had spent 2 years cycling through dental chews, a water additive, and a prescription kibble, with minimal progress at each annual cleaning. We added 1 teaspoon of unsweetened coconut flakes to his evening meal. 8 months later, the vet who performed his next cleaning noted that 2 of the 3 affected sites had stopped progressing. The bone loss did not reverse. It doesn't, but the act of destruction had halted. Duke's owner called my clinic afterward. First time in 3 years, she said, that nobody recommended an extraction. Now, the 5th one. This is the food my colleagues look at sideways when I mention it in conversation. And it's also the one with the most direct, documented effect on the specific bacteria responsible for gum tissue destruction. Raw parsley. The flat leaf variety, I know. It's what restaurants put on the plate so they have something to throw away. But parsley contains a compound called apiol, an essential oil with documented antibacterial and anti-inflammatory properties that act directly on gingival tissue. Gingival tissue is the gums. Inflamed gums are where every serious dental problem in dogs starts, and apiol goes after that inflammation at the source. Parsley also contains chlorophyll, the green pigment in plants, which neutralizes the sulfur compounds produced by oral bacteria. Sulfur compounds are the actual source of bad breath, not food, not the stomach. Sulfur produced by bacteria breaking down protein in the mouth. Chlorophyll binds those compounds directly and neutralizes them, which is why parsley has been used as a breath freshener for centuries, long before anyone understood the chemistry. In dogs, the effect is the same, but the more important result isn't the breath. It's that the bacterial activity producing the sulfur slows down. One important note: curly parsley in very large amounts has been linked to concerns in pregnant dogs. Flat-leaf parsley in normal quantities is safe. A small pinch, 5 to 7 leaves, chopped fine and mixed into food 3 or 4 times a week. That's all. More is not better here. A 4-year-old French bulldog named Theo, a breed with the worst dental anatomy in all of domestic dogs, bar none, because of how their faces are structured, had breath so bad his owner had stopped letting him on the furniture. She assumed it was just how Frenchies smelled. I told her to add a pinch of flat-leaf parsley to his food 3 times a week and come back in 6 weeks. She didn't come back. She messaged the clinic instead, 6 weeks to the day, to say that for the first time in 2 years, Theo had fallen asleep on her lap. She'd stopped noticing the smell. At his next exam, his gum tissue had less visible redness along the line where the teeth meet the gums. 1 herb, 3 times a week. That's the entire intervention. Have you checked your dog's breath recently? Actually leaned in and smelled? Tell me in the comments what you noticed. I ask because most owners have normalized it. They assume it's just how dogs smell. It isn't. It's information. Every single one of these 5 foods is working through the same underlying idea, just arriving at it through a different door. Carrots and celery attack plaque mechanically. Physical disruption, fiber against biofilm. Apples go chemical. Quercetin blocking bacterial adhesion. Malic acid softening early tartar before it locks in. Coconut targets the bacterial membrane itself, breaking down the outer wall of the organisms most responsible for gum destruction. Parsley works at the inflammatory level, reducing the tissue response that lets bacteria invade deeper. 5 doors, all leading to the same room. And that room is a dog whose mouth is not slowly poisoning the rest of their body. Nala's owner called my clinic about 3 months after the surgery. Nala was running again. Actually running, not the careful slow trot she'd managed for months while her jaw healed. Playing with the kids, eating well. The owner said something I've thought about many times since. Why didn't anyone tell me this sooner? I didn't have a good answer. I should have. Nala had been seen by vets her entire life. At some point in 7 years, one of us should have sat down with her owner and explained what plaque actually does. Not just that it causes bad breath, but that it feeds a slow systemic infection that quietly compromises organs. We told her to brush the teeth. We never told her why it was urgent enough that she couldn't afford to miss days. That's the gap. That question is part of why I make these videos. So here's what I want you to walk away with. A raw carrot, given whole enough that your dog has to gnaw it, scrubs the tooth surface and floods the mouth with saliva enzymes. An apple slice, skin on, seeds out, carries quercetin that stops bacteria from gripping the tooth in the first place, and malic acid that softens early tartar before it hardens into something only a scaler can remove. Celery reaches the gum line with fibrous strands that nothing solid can match, and its water content flushes the pockets where disease starts. Coconut flakes, a teaspoon unsweetened in their food, carry lauric acid that breaks down the outer wall of the bacteria most responsible for bone loss, and a pinch of flat-leaf parsley chopped into their meal reduces gum inflammation and neutralizes the sulfur compounds that signal active bacterial damage. All of that costs less than $5 at a grocery store. Most of it is already in your kitchen. If this feels like too much at once, pick one. The carrot if you already buy them. The parsley if your dog's breath has been bothering you. The apple if your dog already begs for them at the counter. One food. This week. Tonight even. Your dog has been with you through everything. The moves, the bad years, the ordinary Tuesdays where they just sat near you because they sensed you needed the company. They never asked for much. They deserve this. One small change. If someone in your life has a dog and you think they need to hear this, send them this video. That's all I'm asking. Everything I've shared today is general information based on current veterinary research and my 22 years of clinical experience. It is not a replacement for your dog's individual veterinary care. Please talk to your vet before making changes to your dog's diet, especially if your dog has existing health conditions like pancreatitis, kidney disease, or diabetes. Your vet is your partner in this, and now you'll have better questions to bring them.